Hi guys, it's Dan here. Well, I did promise you that I'll be taking you guys out on not an investigation, but out to some haunted properties, some haunted venues. And the one that I've started with today is the very first one that I'm going to be doing for you. Is quite a doozy, really. It's a fantastic place. It's the oldest wooden church in the world, certainly in Europe, but I think it's the world as well. It's tucked in a little village in Greenstead in Essex. It's sort of nestled in the heart of the heart of the countryside, and it's a very, very sleepy little village, almost a hamlet really. Now the church itself is amazing. I mean, it's so old. It's probably getting on now for about 1,000 years old. I mean, it's so old that there's actually the grave of a crusader here, so it'll give you an idea of how ancient and how historical it is. But I'm just going to walk you around the outside of the church at the moment, and then eventually we'll go inside and I'll show you the interior. It really is a spectacular church, and it is amazingly and unbelievably historical. And of course, one of my favourite things is not just ghost hunting, not just working with animals, but it's also the historical content and value that you get from a property, particularly an ancient property like this that you do investigations in. So just bear with me. I'm going to take you around and I'm going to show you some of the sites, some of the graves and the church itself. So to start with, there's a neat little story. There is a grave. There's lots of graves in this churchyard, but there's one in particular that's got quite a I suppose you'd call it a Christmas story, considering, or Christmas ghost, not ghost story, but a Christmas story, considering that it happened, well, it happened in the 19th century, mid-19th century, and it happened at Christmas time. And what it was, and I'll show you the grave now, just turn you around. And here we have the grave itself. There's the church in the background. I'm sure you'll agree, it's absolutely stunning. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous church. And right down here, we actually have the grave of, well, this guy here. He was I'll turn it around properly so you can see. And this guy here, he was actually a landlord for one, or a local publican in the mid-19th century. And he used to have, obviously it's the countryside, so lots of farm hands, lots of farmers, farm labourers, ploughmen and all that type of thing that went into his inn. And he had a drunken bet with one of the ploughboys one day. He had a drunken bet that he could mow more corn or more wheat than the actual, within an hour, than the ploughhand himself could, or than the farmer himself could. And so they obviously were very, very drunk this evening, so it seemed like a good idea at the time, and the actual farmer took him, or the ploughboy took him up on it. So suffice to say, they went out and they tried to carry the bet out, and sadly this guy who's buried here, he during the course of trying to win this bet, he actually scythed into his leg and he bled out. He bled to death, and sadly he's here. He's just there. So I just showed you his grave a second ago, and this is his grave here. If I can just get you in on it, that's it there. So it's a pretty amazing story. Pretty amazing historical story. But the building itself, as I say, is absolutely gorgeous. Let's have a good look at this. So here we have the church. Excuse the dodgy film work. There's the church itself. We're going to have a little walk around it, and I'm going to try and get you turning around somehow. Scan around there, and there's the gate where we came in. And there is the grave of the publican. Excuse the bins, not very nice. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you also over to the grave, or the resting place, of the crusader. So let's have a look at this, shall we? Once again, fantastic piece of history, amazing. You see that? There you go. And now we're going to have a little walk around. We're going to have a little walk around the back of it. There you go. And of course, I wouldn't have brought you here unless this was reputedly haunted. And believe me, guys, this has got quite a few bits of activity that have gone on around here. For example, in the evenings, apparently, on certain evenings, there has been shadows seen walking around the cemetery itself. I believe there's been voices heard. And it's one of those buildings that I would love to investigate, but it's still an active church. And of course, the thing with it being an active church, they don't really like you using it. I guess they kind of think there's some form of sacrilege to actually go in and try and investigate it for a ghost hunt. So there we go. So we're going to go around here. There's another fantastic piece that I want to show you, which is historically very important. So we go along here. Fantastic. Now let's have a look, shall we? Now, if you look, there are like little holes like this, just there. There's a couple of them dotted around here, and there's also what is believed, I think, to be what was once a font. Obviously, it's an very old church, and it was probably, well, it would have been Catholic at some point. And those holes and that font, I believe, I've been told, although I wouldn't quote me on it, but I've been told that they were used for lepers, because when lepers used to attend masses, what they used to do is they weren't allowed in, or they couldn't go in because of their illness. They couldn't go in with normal parishioners. So what they used to do is they used to linger out on the outside, and they used to observe the mass through the holes. And obviously, I imagine they used to bless themselves using this little font here, out here. So there have been additions. I believe that this addition here is sort of 19th century. But still fantastic. And look at these mullioned windows, just look at those. But as I say, lots and lots of paranormal activity in this building as well, or reputed to. And I would love to investigate it, but as I say, they won't let you. They will not let you within a mile of it to investigate it, that is. So we're going to go around the side now. And we're coming back again. We've done a full circle. We're coming back to where that chap's grave is, where the landlord's grave is, just there. And now what we're going to do, I'm going to stop you there, and we're going to go inside, and we're going to continue our tour by being inside the church itself. It's a very, very cool place to be. So let me show you. Right, let's go inside, guys, and see what wonders this beautiful building has for us inside, these little secrets. Oh, I love the sound of this. Oh, absolutely love the sound of that. So if we look inside, I'm afraid it's very dark in here, so I'm not sure how much of a view you're actually going to get of the church itself, but we'll do our best. So this is we've just gone into it, so these are the pews, obviously, and the settles, and to give you a look at the church and the stained glass window that's right up the top by the altar there. And inside you can actually get a better view of the leper's peeping hole that they used to use during mass, and I showed you that on the outside. There are more than one, I believe. If you also look very, very closely, you can see the chisel marks that the medieval artisans and craftsmen actually made. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And if anywhere is going to be haunted, or if anywhere is going to have activity, I wouldn't be surprised if it was this place. So we're going to go have a look up. There's one of the stained glass windows, very beautiful. Look at the carving on the oak there, just fantastic. And then we're going to come down. Oh look, there's a little model there. Looks like it's made out of matchsticks. That's pretty cool. I'm going to take you back round. There's a holy water font for baptisms, I'm guessing. And of course it wouldn't be a country church, would it, if it didn't have a little cottage industry going that was selling things like homemade chutney jams and cards. So there you go, fantastic. So let's have a look. There you go. So let's look at this stained glass window here. This really is a work of art. Look at that, beautiful. And we'll go over here, look at the next stained glass window. Just amazing, just fantastic. And of course there are memorials and plaques all over the wall to parishioners and to vicars that once came here to worship. Got the pulpit there, not sure how much of that you can see. Got the eagle here, can't really see that, I'm sure. I don't know if you can or not. But we'll go to a little bit more light, and we'll actually go up towards the altar and look at this stained glass window. That's just stunning. So imagine all the people that would have been here or come here throughout the centuries to worship. You know, I'm sure a lot of them are probably buried outside there in the graveyard. I often wonder if these people were to come back today, what they would actually make. Would they still recognise the area? Would they still recognise it as their home? And indeed, are some of the families from long ago times still living in the actual village? You see. So there you go. So let's have a look at the church that way. Fantastic. And we'll walk back down again, and then I'll sit down and I'll have a little chat about some of the activity that is supposed to have happened here. Let's have a look. Oh, I'm going to sit down in a pew. I love the sound, just wonderful. Right, here I am again, my ugly mug. Let's have a look at me. Not a pretty sight, I know. So there's been a lot of activity recorded outside in the graveyard, as I said earlier. There have been numerous shadows have been seen, I believe, and there's also been one in particular that has become, I think it's become quite infamous, certainly as far as the paranormal world is concerned. There has been activity inside. I'm not sure. I was a little bit naughty a long time ago. I actually came in here one Sunday. It was getting on, the time was getting a bit late, and I thought I would do a little bit of an impromptu investigation whilst it was quiet. And I did some recording, I did some asking out, but I never got anything back from it, to be honest. I checked and reviewed the footage of the camera, and I checked and reviewed the audio for EVPs, which are electronic voice phenomenon, and I didn't get anything from that either. Because obviously the thing with us is that when we do vigils, that is to say when we sit down and we ask out as paranormal investigators, as ghost hunters, we leave, just after asking a question, we leave about 15 to 20 seconds blank, because it's believed that because spirits resonate on a different frequency than we do, it takes time. It's almost like it's almost like a transatlantic feed. Sometimes you will get that delay, and then they will answer the question, but it will be a little bit further on. Sometimes if you ask questions too quickly, and then you will sometimes if you do pick up voices, sometimes it's all out of kilter. That's why you need to leave the sort of time difference. That's why you need to leave that little bit of lull, that little bit of time in between asking questions, so that it gives them a chance to then answer you, and then it becomes apparent that answer it could be an answer to a question you've asked. Otherwise it becomes a mess and it's just a nightmare. But yeah, so I did that in here. It was fantastic. It was just nice to be in here like it is today. It's nice to be in here on my own, just enjoying the peace and the tranquility of the building, and immersing myself in the history of the building, the historical content of the building. As you can see, I'm quite passionate about this church. I absolutely love it. I'm not religious really, but I do love this church. And it's the thing with ghost hunting, it's not just the fact that you could be talking to people that have passed on, but it's talking to people from different time periods, and it's talking to people, especially if you're into history like I am, and I think that most paranormal investigators are. It's a big bonus and a big plus, and just as much or just as important to talk to or to think that you're talking to somebody from those time periods as much as it is that you are talking to somebody who passed over. But yeah, it's very quiet. It's very peaceful, very relaxing, almost meditative, really. And as I say, I've taken you around the outside of it. The guy that I was saying, the publican that's buried outside that died in the bet with the farmer, with the ploughboy, he was called Edward Edwards. Quite an unusual name, isn't it? Edward Edwards. But that was the chap's name. And it was, I think, 1842. So I was right, it was mid-19th century. So, you know, imagine, I mean, he was obviously, well, I'm guessing he was a parishioner here. So it's pretty amazing to think that people that actually worshipped here through the centuries are still here, or still their physical remains are still here, but they're just outside in the graveyard. It just always blows me away. It's that historical content again. Anyway, if you hear anything in the background, whispers or what have you, let me know, because there may be somebody in here trying to contact me, trying to talk to me. As I say, I can't hear it with the naked ear, so you guys might have better result listening through the audio from the video. Yeah, it's fantastic. As I say, it's a little church nestled out in the sort of dreamscape of the Essex countryside, and it really is a sleepy little place. It's just wonderful. It probably, from where I live, it probably took me around about half an hour to get here. So yeah, it's worth it. It's really, really worth it. It's just, well, as you can see, I wax lyrical about this place, and there's a reason for that, because it's just amazing. Next time I do a video, or one of the next videos I do, maybe not the next one, but certainly one of the ones that I'll be doing soon, I'll be talking you through some of the paranormal equipment, hopefully, that we use, and I'll be showing it and discussing or telling you what types of equipment we use and what activity we hopefully gain from each piece of equipment. So I'll be doing that. I'll be doing an equipment, not review, but I'll be doing an equipment discussion, paranormal equipment discussion. So that should be quite good. That should be quite exciting. I'm hoping to find somewhere that's equally paranormal and equally haunted to actually do the video in. So we'll have to wait and see. I've got my eye on a place, and it's a friend's home, and I've done a couple of investigations there, and that's always proved quite active. So hopefully we'll be able to get in there. If I buy him a bottle of whiskey and stroke his head and tell him how great he is, he might just let us access it. Might just let us into his house, or his cottage, I should say. And that cottage he's in is almost, I mean, it was registered from about 1740, I think, but it goes back much further than that. It goes back 800-900 years. I think it originally started off as a cattle shed with a shepherd's hut above it. So they obviously turned it into a house in the 1700s and then registered it as an abode. So hopefully we'll get in there and see that, and we'll see what we can see. And then at some point I will be doing an investigation. And you know, it doesn't matter if I do them during the day or during the evening. People say to me, well, you know, why do ghost hunters do investigations in the evening? Well, to be honest, I can't answer for everybody else, but whether that's more atmospheric for them and spooky, I don't know. But for me, it's good because I can sit down in the dark. It's much quieter in the evening. So you can, it's almost meditative. So you can sit in the dark, you can ask questions, it focuses your concentration, it allows you to almost sync with the environment, and you hopefully get better results. But saying that, you know, spirits are going to be there all the time, you know, energies are going to be there all the time. And so there's no reason why they wouldn't interact with you during the day. You know, I mean, there's as much activity during the day or during the course of a day in a haunted property or reputedly haunted property as there would be in the evening. So it makes very little difference. I'm hoping that the lighting, I mean, it's a very old church and it's very dark. I'm hoping that the little bit of lighting that we've had in here lets you just see how beautiful it is and lets you experience it. But yeah, that's about it. I hope that you stay happy and healthy, and I will hopefully speak to you soon. So thanks a lot. So from Dan's Haunted Cottage, see you later. Bye. Bye, guys.